everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Pinch of Salt, presented to you by Salty Runback, where we break down each of the 10 NACL teams in the 10 days leading up to the NACL regular season. It is our 5th episode. We're halfway down, and we're about to get into the top half, but rounding out our bottom half today, Hawk, is AOE Esports, who have been around the middle of the pack for the last couple of years since they've made their way into the NACL. And let's take a look at what they have cooking here for this split.
Yeah, they got themselves a roster. Zamudo, Rosethorn, Onat, Wixie, and Breezy. Only Breezy making his return to AOE. And Grapes, like you said, they've been middle of the pack. They have avoided getting relegated as one of the provisional teams at the start of last year. They were middle of the pack in the split before, not even appearing in the relegation tournament. AOE, they have been a team, I mean, ever since they came into the scene in 2021, playing at a decently high level. And, hey, I would expect this split to be none different. And, I mean, clearly the community feels the same. Average ranking, 6th. Very, very close to 6th if you look at the decimal average. I mean, clearly people think in the community that they deserve to be 6th place, middle of the pack once again, avoiding relegation. But I don't know, Grapes. I think they got some really exciting stuff cooking here for 2024.
Yeah, so as we saw, some exciting pieces in the summer split where they had some highs, had some lows, and it ended on a bit of a low for them where they got knocked out in that first round of the playoffs. However, for this iteration of the team, instead of Will, we have Rosethorn. Instead of Concept, it's Zamudo. Onat and Wixie round out this team as well. And all these players were in the NACL in the last year or so. Wixie, of course, took a bit of some time off after being on Immortals. Wasn't on the team in the summer, but has been grinding this fall on Peach Cats, and that was a very exciting team that him and Onat were on this season. And I think overall, it kind of goes to show that this league is very competitive, because these are all very definitive names that we've seen, all very known quantities, or have the potential to go even higher, but have a floor at least of being very solid in this league. And they're ranked 6, which, depending on the format of how the league works, could be one of the lower positions going into the playoffs in the regular season.
Yeah, but I mean, again, like this team, all players that have proven themselves at this level. I mean, debatably, you could say maybe Onat hasn't proven himself quite yet, but at least everybody else has shown that they are capable of playing at this level. And Grapes, I want to dive right into the positives because this roster excites me. Bot lane reunion, Wixie and Breezy, the C9 amateur squad. They are back and better than ever because, Grapes, I'm just going to come out and say it. This bot lane, top 2 in the league. Wixie, Breezy, you will know their names. I'm so excited about this piece for AOE. I mean, we talked a little bit between the two of us, and there was a bit of a discussion on Twitter, like, who's going to win the Wixie lottery? It is AOE Esports, and in retaining their former support from last split, Wixie getting reunited with Breezy. I mean, this team, I'm so excited about these two guys. They played together so well back in the day. They've already, like Wixie's dad tweeted like a reunion picture of these two guys, which was so adorable. Like, I'm really excited to see them play again, and I think they're going to kick ass on this team.
I'm trying to think. Were you even casting when these?
Yeah, I was doing
2021.
I was doing like plat leagues back in 2021 spring. 2021 summer I was around. I was doing AOE games for
okay,
for
no, that
grounds.
makes sense.
Yeah, in back in like the cup days whenever they weren't like on the stream, like
okay, I'm associating
streams.
I'm associating Wixie and Breezy with spring, but I think they did actually play.
They played in summer as well. Yeah,
summer as well. Okay, so that
C9 and team was good. That was
a hype
team.
They had XU as well. XU and Lawrence, Captain Shrimps.
Captain Shrimps, yeah.
That
was a good team. No, back because Grapes, I remember you were doing Supernova games and I was doing AOE games. That was
okay. No, that does hold up in my head now. My timeline of when these two were on a team together is like a split behind. So
according to esports timeline, it's ancient history, so I don't blame you. So.
I do agree with you, actually. I'm going to say this is the best bot lane that we have in NACL, and that might be a little bit spicy, especially because they are ranked 6. In terms of known quantities and what we have seen, I think I might have them up there. When we think about some of the players that are maybe some of the teams that are a little bit higher, maybe you could make arguments for basically any of the other bot lanes that we have not yet discussed. But I think the synergy combined with the fact that I think Wixie and Breezy are both top 2, 3 in their positions right now. Breezy probably third because there's 2 people coming right back down from LCS above him. They're going to be very scary. They're going to dominate lane if they're given the opportunity to, and really, really impress. And I do think that that is the shining light for this team, because across the rest of the map, there are a couple of question marks that we do potentially have. I'll start off with our highlights that we had here. You mentioned the bot lane reunion. The side lanes are explosive to say the least. We mentioned Wixie and Breezy already. Zamudo is another fun player that we had in our NACL system last split. On Wildcard, performed with some highs and some lows, I should say. Always wanting to be that strong side carry. And I think does bring a couple of question marks, but will be another very exciting young prospect to watch.
I agree. And look, Zamudo may have highs and lows, and but Grapes, you used the word explosive, and that's a great word to describe Zamudo. This guy, look, first of all, he's a gangplank player. That's very explosive, quite literally. But also, he just loves playing carries. The guy is a psycho. Draven top Zamudo, But I mean, I hold Zamudo in very, very high regard. I think Zamudo is definitely one of the strongest top laners that we're going to have in the Challengers League. Whether or not he can contend with guys like Jenkins and Surdy, I actually think is going to be a big question that I want Zamudo to try to answer this split. But I'm very excited about this player. I think again, bot lane should be so strong. Zamudo, I want to see him pop off. And Rosethorn and Onat, you mentioned the question marks. Can mid jungle keep up? But I want to talk about Rosethorn in particular, because we talk about how explosive these side lanes are. Rosethorn, I need to see you be able to manage that, right? This is a player that has become accustomed to not being the main carry. He doesn't need to be that guy. He is a great facilitator jungler. However, hasn't always been on the same level as some of the better junglers in the league, right? So I need to see if Rosethorn can actually prop up this bottom lane, this top lane, and allow these guys to carry the way that this team needs them to, because that's going to be, for me, the biggest question mark as we move into the season.
Yeah, I think specifically the fact that you mentioned all 3 of these carries, all 3 of these laners in Zamudo, Onat, and Wixie, love to put their carry pants on a little bit, and having to juggle that specifically between Zamudo and Wixie could be interesting. I do know that Wixie is very capable of playing weak side. However, not necessarily sure if that is the best strategy for a team that he is on. You can stick him on an island, he'll be able to play admirably, but I do think if you give him a ton of resources, he could absolutely 1v9 a game for you, like we've seen in years past. So Rosethorn will have a lot on his plate for sure. And the mid jungle here for AOE is something that we're gonna have to see if they can keep up with the rest of the players in the league in their respective positions, because I do think jungle is probably the strongest position that we have here in NACL. Mid lane also very, very strong, and Rosethorn and Onat, you might remember, they have synergy together, but they were on Team Fish Taco, a team that did finish 10th place in the NACL last summer. Now, you can make your arguments that they had roster issues towards the end of the split. They were relegated because they had to have their ADC playing top lane because of an emergency substitution issue. That's all true, but the team did end up finishing towards the bottom of the standings in 2023. And even though Rosethorn and Onat, I think, are going to bring some of that existing synergy, we'll see how they compare to the other players here in this league, because there are some exciting ones, and I think it's a team that, people are going to look at the side lanes, obviously, but the mid jungle is important in terms of facilitating those 2 sides working together, and are going to be crucial if this team does want to succeed.
And I do think Onat has a lot to prove this split, right? Again, all the other 4 players that have shown that they can play at this level, be successful at this level. Onat yet to really do so, right? O-Nation stonks were going up last year for a lot of the season, but towards the end of the NACL split into promotion, they came to a screeching halt. And I think Onat...
They stayed around level, I think. I think he he was all right. He was
right. Just if you're tracking team trajectory, right? Like the teams that he was playing on and everything, I suppose. But and I think that goes to show, like, Onat is a player that he's not in over his head at this level. Like, it was not on Onat by any means, you know what I mean? So but that's why he's going to have a lot to prove, because he needs to prove to probably himself and to everyone that it definitely was not on him. And hey, if you put me on a good team, I actually can build the O Nation in the mid lane, right? And be the president of this role, because that's going to be so incredibly important. Again, the way he links up with Rosethorn, it's going to matter a lot. So, Onat, a lot on your shoulders, but it's going to be really exciting to watch, because if this mid jungle can do their job and play towards these side lanes, hold their own, and even generate their own advantages, I mean, I'm telling you, man, this AoE team could be really scary.
It's really interesting to think about how one split of playing in NACL can like change the perception of yourself, like in a league like this. And yeah, just thinking about it once again, like having, you know, Onat kind of in the same trajectory as a player like Messages was back in the spring split, as getting their first opportunity on a bit of a contender in tier 3. And now, after summer, because of just like how things ended up going in the summer split, some of it in these players' control, some of it not, these two people that we kind of considered as these like rookies that are going to be really impressive and had a lot to prove, but a lot of room to grow, we're looking maybe at Messages as a player who is a little bit more hyped and more exciting, and Onat maybe as like somebody who is, like we've seen them already. But it's only been one split. And if
I don't
Messages
know.
was promoted,
I'm still excited about Onat. I think he's got a lot to prove. I don't think he's old news at this point, especially considering how the split ended for his team. I do think Onat still has a lot on his mind for the split, and I don't know. I'm excited to see it.
I think what I meant by that is that, you know, we can kind of we should still think of Onat as this developmental piece, as this growing player, even though he had his chance last split. Having just one chance isn't gonna, you know, make or break your performances and change the way that you're, you know, that shouldn't change the way you're going to be perceived, especially after you just, again, only had one split. And so Onat is the quote-unquote rookie on this team still, and I think we should treat him as that. And if he does keep up and does pick up that trajectory and continues to improve, then I do agree. This AoE team is going to be good. The difference, of course, is that Onat is on this team that's power ranked 6th, Messages right now on a team that was power ranked 9th, and so the perceptions in terms of like the upside and downside and the level of pressure that might be on these players could be a little bit different.
100%. Well, Grapes, now the moment of truth, whether or not we rate this team higher, lower, or just right. And, you know, how about you go first this time? Well, let's shake it up. Higher, lower, or just right for AoE. 6th place.
I'm going to say they're right about where they should be. They are, you know, as you saw in the average fan rank from last episode where we did Mirage Alliance, pretty close to them in terms of community sentiment, and I think that's about true. And they are pretty close to the next team that we have on our list that we'll be revealing tomorrow. I think this team is very solidly middle of the pack, but has the opportunity to grow a little bit more. But I do think middle of the pack does kind of work for them. I think they're in this tier where they have really exciting pieces that were going to be exciting, that are going to really impress and show off in some games, and they also might have some stinkers as well, and that's gonna kind of balance themselves out. Yeah, I think middle of the pack works.
All right, yeah, that is valid. However, Grapes, I think this team is very underrated. I think AoE is underrated. They should be higher in y'all's power rankings, and I have them higher in mine, which you all will see in due time. I think this AoE team is very exciting. One of the best bot lanes in the league. I think Zamudo is going to come out and prove himself as one of the best top laners in the league, and as long as this mid jungle is able to play towards that, I do not think AoE is just in this middle of the pack. And for as strong as our top 6 may be in Grapes, I think a lot of people would agree we have a very strong top 6 here in this league. I think AoE is not just a team that is going to prove that they belong, but they are going to prove that they are a team that is a contender. I think they will break into the top half of the NACL for the first time in the organization's history. I'm very high on this team. I think they should be higher.
That's a bold take. I mean,
it's a bold take.
There are some exciting teams that we have left to discuss, and so you're gonna have to keep that in your head as we continue to go throughout Pinch of Salt. Which of these teams does Hawk think AoE is better than? We'll have to continue to take a look at that. But I'm excited for this AoE team. I've always been high on the roster that they have been putting out, and even though obviously this is one that looks very different than the one that they had last summer, I think the same absolutely could be said, and they're going to have some very memorable moments, I would say, in 2024.
Well, and if you don't think that AOE should be rated higher than 6th place, let us know on social media at Salty Runback Pod. Otherwise, you can take it with a pinch of salt. All the NACL action starts on January 20th. Yeah, you like that? All the NACL action starts on January 20th. Be sure to tune in and see the opening day as these 10 amazing teams go head-to-head. We're only 5 days away. 5 teams remaining to be broken down. I've been Hawk. That's been Grapes. See you tomorrow.